Imagine this. You're 18 years old, you just graduated high school, the world feels wide open, and you are standing at the very edge of adulthood. For Natalee Holloway, that edge was a sandy beach on the island of Aruba. She was celebrating her graduation, surrounded by friends, excitement, and the promise of the future. But in the early hours of May 30th, 2005, Natalee walked out of a nightclub with a charming young man and into the darkness. She was never seen alive again. The search for Natalee Holloway became one of the most infamous disappearances of the 21st century. It sparked international headlines, endless speculation, and an investigation plagued by corruption, cover-ups, and contradictions. At the heart of it all stood one name, Joran van der Sloot. This is the story of a seemingly carefree vacation unraveled into a decades-long mystery, one that still haunts her family and still grips at the world with one question: what really happened to Natalee Holloway? Natalee Ann Holloway was born in Clinton, Mississippi in 1986. By all accounts, she was the kind of young woman people noticed. Friends describe her as smart, energetic, and fiercely independent. Teachers admired her drive. She earned a full scholarship to the University of Alabama, where she planned to study pre-med. Her life was moving forward fast. In May of 2025, Natalee graduated from Mountain Brook High School in a wealthy suburb of Birmingham, Alabama. Like many seniors, she joined her classmates on a celebratory trip. The destination, Aruba, a Caribbean paradise known for white sand beaches, turquoise water, and a reputation as one of the safest islands in the region. The trip was organized through unofficial channels. Around 125 students went, along with just a handful of parent chaperones. For many, it was their first time away from home without supervision. It was meant to be a once-in-a-lifetime getaway. From the start, Aruba offered the kind of freedom most 18-year-olds dream of. Casinos didn't check IDs too carefully. Nightclubs welcomed tourists with open arms. Drinks flowed, and the party atmosphere was inescapable. For Natalee, it was no different. Friends later said she was drinking heavily during the trip. It wasn't unusual. Many of her classmates were too, but it was also a detail that later fueled controversy and victim blaming. Standing out in the crowd was a 17-year-old Dutch student named Joran van der Sloot. He was well known around Aruba's nightlife, charismatic, confident, and reckless. Joran was the kind of guy who made an impression instantly. But beneath that charm was something darker. Joran was already known for his arrogance and a short temper. He lived in Aruba with his parents, attended the International School of Aruba, and often mingled with tourists. Friends would later admit he liked to take advantage of the fact that tourists didn't know him or his reputation. That night, witnesses say Joran approached Natalee on the dance floor. They were seen talking, dancing, and eventually leaving the club around 1:30 in the morning. With them were two brothers, Deepak and Satish Kalpo, Surinamese friends of Joran's, who acted as his wingmen. Natalee's friends noticed she left, but assumed she would return safely. After all, Aruba was supposed to be safe. No one imagined that walk out of Carlos and Charlie's would be the last time she was ever seen alive. When morning came, panic set in. Natalee was supposed to meet her group at the hotel lobby at 9 a.m. for their return flight to Alabama. She never showed up. Her belongings, passport, packed luggage, and cell phone were all still in her room. Her friends immediately alerted chaperones. Calls were made, the police were contacted, and within hours, the alarm spread from her classmates to her parents back home. Natalee's mother, Beth Holloway, was on the first plane out of Alabama. By that afternoon, she was in Aruba demanding answers. Aruban authorities launched a search, but from the beginning, the investigation was chaotic. Witness statements changed, leads were mishandled, and at the center of it all, Joran van der Sloot was already lying. Beth Holloway pushed harder. She confronted the suspects directly, demanding answers face to face. Joran shifted his story again. Now he said Natalee wanted to see the ocean. He claimed he left her on the beach near the hotel and walked away. That was the last time he insisted that he saw her. Over the next days and weeks, Aruba became a global media circus. Search teams scoured beaches. Diving crews combed waters. Volunteers searched the island on foot. Hundreds of tips came in. None led to Natalee. Joran and the Capote brothers were arrested multiple times, then released. Aruban law required evidence to hold suspects, and the authorities didn't have it. Each time they were released, public outrage grew. The case was slipping through the cracks of jurisdictional chaos. Aruba's small police force wasn't equipped for international scrutiny, and every time the suspects were questioned, their stories became more tangled. But the truth about Joran van der Sloot and his violent potential had only just begun to surface. As the days turned to weeks, the search for Natalee Holloway morphed into something bigger. Aruba was now under a global microscope. Every news channel in the United States had reporters on the ground. The case dominated headlines, and Beth Holloway became a constant presence on television. The pressure was suffocating for the Aruban authorities. Tourism was their lifeblood, and the disappearance of an American teenager was turning into an international scandal. But the one person who seemed oddly calm in the chaos was Joran van der Sloot. When interviewed, Joran often appeared relaxed, even smug. He offered inconsistent details, blaming his lies on panic or fear of being unfairly accused. One day he said he left Natalee at the hotel. The next, he claimed she collapsed on the beach and he left her there. Later, he suggested she wanted to stay with him voluntarily. Each story was a fragment, but none ever matched the evidence. And yet, despite his lies, the Aruban authorities couldn't pin him down. They lacked physical evidence. They lacked a body. And every time they tried to close in, Joran slipped away. Beth Holloway refused to let the case fade into silence. She organized search efforts, pleaded with the public, and confronted officials who she felt were failing her daughter. Her resolve made her a central figure in the story, but it also created tension with local authorities. Aruban officials accused the media of distorting the investigation. Some even suggested Beth was interfering too much, but Beth didn't care. Her daughter was gone, and the one person who held the answers was smirking on national television. Behind the scenes, the FBI joined forces with the Aruban authorities, but the lack of cooperation between the two nations made progress slow. Rumors spread that powerful people were protecting Joran's family. After all, his father, Paulus van der Sloot, was a well-connected lawyer training to become a judge. Throughout 2005, dozens of false leads surfaced. At one point, investigators searched a pond near Joran's home, convinced Natalee's body had been dumped there. Nothing was found. Another time, a tip claimed she had been buried in a construction site. Crews dug. Again, nothing. The longer the case dragged on, the more Joran seemed to enjoy the spotlight. By 2006, the investigation had gone cold. Aruba's small police force had no new evidence. The suspects had been questioned over and over, but nothing stuck. In 2007, the case was officially closed, citing lack of evidence. Natalee was still missing. Her parents were devastated, but Beth Holloway kept pushing, turning her grief into advocacy, speaking out for victims of crime and missing persons. The name Natalee Holloway became synonymous with cautionary tales of safety abroad, yet the truth remained buried in lies. Then a bombshell. In 2008, Dutch journalist Peter R. de Vries set up an undercover sting operation to catch Joran on tape. Using hidden cameras, an associate befriended Joran, gaining his trust. In the secretly recorded footage, Joran confessed. He claimed Natalee collapsed after a night of drinking and drugs. He said she began convulsing, and rather than helping her, he panicked. In his account, a friend helped dispose of her body at sea. When the footage aired, it was explosive. Millions watched as Joran spoke with disturbing calmness about Natalee's final moments. But when pressed by investigators, Joran backtracked. He said he had made it all up. Once again, Joran had toyed with the truth. The story might have faded into obscurity if not for Joran's next crime. In May of 2010, exactly 5 years to the day after Natalee's disappearance, Joran had murdered a 21-year-old Stephanie Flores in Peru. Stephanie met Joran in a casino in Lima. Hours later, she was found beaten and strangled in his hotel room. This time, the evidence was undeniable. Surveillance footage, physical evidence, and his own admission sealed his fate. Joran fled but was captured in Chile. He confessed to killing Stephanie, claiming he had lashed out after she discovered files on his laptop about the Holloway case. The irony was undeniable. The man suspected in Natalee's disappearance had now taken another life. This time, the world had proof of what he was capable of. In 2012, Joran was sentenced to 28 years in prison for the murder of Stephanie Flores. Later, his sentence was extended after he admitted to smuggling drugs inside prison. In his 2023 confession, Joran gave the most detailed account yet. He admitted that after leaving Carlos and Charlie's with Natalee, they went to the beach. When she refused his advances, he became violent. He struck her, and when she lost consciousness, he killed her. He then disposed of her body. For Natalee's family, it was a devastating but long-awaited answer. The details were horrifying, but at last, the truth had been spoken by the man who had lied for nearly 2 decades. Natalee Holloway's disappearance changed the way Americans view travel abroad. It exposed weaknesses in international investigations, highlighted the challenges of missing person cases, and revealed how media can both help and hinder justice. But beyond the evidence, it is the story of an 18-year-old girl whose life was stolen on the cusp of adulthood. For her family, the fight has never ended. Even after the answers came, the pain remained. 18 years. That's how long it took for Natalee's family to hear the truth. And even then, it came from a confessed killer behind prison walls, a man whose lies had stretched across the globe. The case of Natalee Holloway is not just about what happened on that beach in Aruba. It's about a system that failed her, about a predator who thrived in the shadows, and about a mother who refused to let the world forget her daughter's name. Because in the end, the tragedy of Natalee Holloway is not just that she disappeared, it is that she was silenced. After 20 years, we finally have Joran van der Sloot's confession. He admitted to killing Natalee Holloway that night in Aruba, but with her remains still missing, the case feels unfinished. For Natalee's family, true closure may never come. What's left behind is a story that continues to haunt the world. What do you think really happened to Natalee that night in Aruba? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more deep dives into cases that leave us with more questions than answers, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. This has been Midnight Verdict. Thank you for watching.